Hey guys, welcome to A Little Help for Our Friends, the podcast for people with loved ones struggling with mental health. Hey, little helpers. Today we're going to do an episode that gets pretty personal. We have discussed intellectually some of these topics before, but I think it can be sometimes more helpful to hear what it's like for one of us actually suffering from this stuff. So, Kibby and I are going to have a discussion that's basically about how early, childhood abuse can lead to really negative core beliefs and self-loathing. And this is going to be an episode where I'm really excited that Kibby is kind of willing to do this with us and brave enough to talk about this with us because you've talked a lot about your childhood before and your relationship with your mom and alluded to it, but today it seems like you want to talk about it in depth.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling coming into this episode? And yeah, start there.
I mean, nervous. It's one of these things that, like, before we were gonna record this, I was like ruminating and like feeling raw in my emotions. And now that I'm here, I'm nervous. So,
Yeah.
waffling between wanting to say how I feel, but then also being nervous that, ironically, like, it's gonna sound whiny or too raw or too off putting or something. So, like,
Yeah,
nervous.
this comes up for you whenever you talk about things in your own life.
Yep.
We did an episode on cancer. She's like, I'm worried this is gonna bum people out. Like, well,
Yeah. Might have.
it might have. It might have. Well, I know you want to say something about Cool Mind before we kick this off, so I'll turn it over to you for that as well.
Yeah, thanks. For people listening, I mean, I you maybe you know this by now, but we've been through so much stuff, you and me, Jacqueline, and I really made Cool in Mind to help people like us at times where we felt scared, we felt alone, we felt like we were in a relationship that was difficult, but we weren't sure if we were the toxic one or they were the toxic one, or am I causing the pain, they're causing the pain. Like, it just is such a lonely experience to try to navigate mental illness and emotions and relationships, like this broken attachment. And we were building Cool Minds so that people don't feel alone in it. And, I usually say all the things like in Cool Mind, we're doing a community with a group where we're going to teach all the skills that we talk about, how to take care of yourself, how to set boundaries without guilt, how to regulate your own emotions, how to support loved ones. And that's all the academic stuff that we learned over time. But really, what this is made for is to make people feel not alone, make people feel seen and heard in such a difficult relationship with either yourself or someone else having mental illness or emotional struggles. So, if you just want to find out more, just reach out to me. I love talking to you. I've been, on calls with a bunch of you, and I really, really love talking to this community. So just go to Coolamind, KULAMIND.com, and click Get Started. That's how you could book a free call and just learn more about our group coming up, as well as one-on-one coaching with me. So,
Yeah, I know this is a huge passion for you, and I think this episode will help reveal why and why this is so close to your heart. So, earlier today, you texted me something. Do you mind if I share what that was?
yeah, sure.
Okay,
Oh
so
my
you
God.
texted me, I think I hate myself, and that's a relief to say, to finally admit to. Can you tell me what was happening for you in that moment?
I don't know what was going on this morning. I think I've been waiting for this moment after cancer where this magic healing happens. Like, people who go through something scary or an illness say that, it strips them away of all the noise and gets to some core issues that needed healing. And I was kind of waiting for that. And it's made me come in contact more with this anxiety I feel all the time. I mean, you know this very well, but I'm just constantly anxious that I'm not doing enough, that I'm not doing well enough, that something's wrong in my relationships, just always anxious about that. And I felt a lot of knowledge and a lot of peace and healing through becoming a therapist and working with people who also struggle with this. So I feel like I've come a long way, but there's this core part of me that just is constantly buzzing, constantly feeling not enough. And I think also through all these podcast episodes, we've talked about a lot of different issues that I normally wouldn't otherwise. And realizing like how much we've gone through and how much that anxiety is from a lot of the traumatic things that I've been through as a kid. And when I don't know why I was like, going home from an appointment and I was just thinking, I think I just hate myself. Like I think I I assume that I'm bad and broken and all the good things I do and all the nice things people say to me are, almost false. Like it's surface level. Oh, they know that side of me and I'm overcompensating, but, I'm really broken down deep inside. And once people have found out, or have come in contact with that, that's where problems lie. And it's just a matter of time before they get there. And weirdly enough, like I didn't feel sad when I had the thought, oh, I hate myself. I had this like relief, kind of like how some of our friends have described like coming out of the closet to themselves, where they're like, oh, there's this thing that has like been woven into all the different parts of my life in the background, and it's caused this like disconnection and confusion and pain, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But now I get it. So like once I saw like, oh, I hate myself, then I saw how the tendrils have spread out over my life and infected like everything, the way I think, the way I act, and this anxiety that I say that it always sits with me. So it was kind of like a relief when I realized that or thought that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some relief in a sense of certainty, I suppose. Understanding what's happening. Is this something that you 100% believe, or is this something that only a part of you believes?
I think if you were to ask me this morning, it'd be 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I think now that I'm a little calmer, I have like, oh yes, it's there in me, like deep down, like in my stomach or my chest. But there's other parts of me that knows that it's not true. Like it kind of feels like a more logical side of me that's like, Kimmy, come on, you're great. You have all these like good things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, right now it's probably like 60, 70%, but I think I'm realizing how much it's played a role in all the times where I've gotten like weirdly upset about things and didn't know why, or gotten really angry at myself, or really, when the emotions like didn't fit the situation, I'm like, oh, it's the self-hatred that was driving it. So it feels like I figured out an answer to a puzzle.
Yeah. Do you know what triggers it?
Whenever I fail or whenever I feel like I don't do well enough, I am like, oh, it's because of this broken part of me that's infected, that will never make me as successful as I should be. Or even when silly things, when I look at counterparts, like peers that are doing better than me professionally, just like comparison, social comparison. I'm like, oh, they have what it takes to be good, and I'm trying hard to keep up that race with a broken leg, and this broken leg is a secret that no one knows that I have this broken leg, but it's there, and I hate it, and I'm trying to run as hard as I can with it.
So right now you're kind of talking about it in terms of like success, ambition, failure, productivity. It seems like I've witnessed there's this other side to it too, when it's like when you convince yourself that somebody doesn't truly care about you.
Yeah.
Is that a different apart? Is it the other side of the same coin? Is it related to success?
I think if I were to tie it back to, I mean, I think that the professional success was like my way of getting out of this, getting not broken, right? Like especially my dad was always really like excited when I would do well in school, and he was very proud of me for that. So that felt like a lifeline. Like as long as I did well, I someone will see me as good. And in relationships, it comes out as like people pleasing or like, doing everything I can to make them happy. And then there's that always that fear that like if I don't do that, that's the only thing that they like about me. And that feels a little bit more closer to the way I feel about my relationship with my mother, but it's probably both.
Well, I'm wondering if the success thing is less about, oh, I'm not the kind of person who has what it takes to be successful, and more about, if I fail, I'm so threatened because I don't have my lifeline available to
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah. I felt it a lot when I had cancer and I couldn't work as much, or when I was postpartum. I was like, oh, I don't have that lifeline. Like, I don't have that thing that people would like. So what am I? Nothing. No one's gonna, no one's gonna like me. No one's gonna want me. No one's gonna find me valuable. So that was hard.
do you have a sense of what it means to be bad, or like this diseased part of you? Can you put words to it? Is it a character of some kind that you could describe?
The angry version of me, the part of me that's like aggressive and big personality. I think that, just from just from like just natural consequences, like whenever I've gotten angry or whenever I've been, like aggressive in some way, that's what gets the negative feedback, right? Like people don't like that. For example, like some little things, like there's one thing that stood out to me in my mind. It was so silly, but we were playing on the playground with some friends, and I think I just pushed one of my friends, and I were like running around and stuff, and I just like pushed my friend, and she fell backward, and she said, like, she was like, Kibby, in this like horrified way. And I remember that, like, I mean, I apologized and we like were fine, but I was horrified at myself. I was like, oh no, like I'm bad, like I can't believe I did that, I'm bad, like how can I do that, why did I do that? So yeah, that part of me, that's, yeah, I mean, I talked to my mom today, and ugh, it was a hard day. I think how do I explain this in a succinct, like, normal way? It kind of feels like this broken side of me, or that part. It's like, I guess, a generational trauma, something that I inherited from her. Some days it feels like a thing that she wanted me to, that it's like there's this part or this demon that is being passed around. No one wants it. My mom had it and she's trying to pass it to me. And I don't want it. And I struggle with holding it. And, I have it, I guess. And I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't think this is mine. But I have it. And I don't know what to do with it. And I sometimes wish that she would take it back. But she never does. And the way that looks like is, I think she probably felt rejected and shamed and like not accepted by people. And so she did the same to me. And as I've been doing a little bit more healing, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not bad. Maybe this isn't actually me. Maybe she gave this to me. Maybe this like idea of myself came from her.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I say that, or when I say, like, don't you recognize how essentially abusive you've been? She goes, well, no, I wasn't. It's your dad's fault. Or
Or
I'm like, today I kind of, I just was in such a raw place. I couldn't hold back, and I kind of unleashed all the thoughts and feelings that I've been holding in, which is that I feel scared around my mom. I feel unsafe. I feel guarded, and I feel irritable around her. I really get scared when she has my son, especially if it's unsupervised. Like, I really, like, I feel viscerally like my stomach is in knots. And today she did one of her things again where she wanted to, take him over to her house, which leaves me like in a state of panic. And I said no. And she said, "Why don't you like we always get in a fight about this?" She was like, "Why don't you let me?" Like, he asked me, and because of you, I had to say no to him. I had to deny him. And so I said, I don't feel safe around you. Like, I think you're very mean to me sometimes. And of course, she denied it. And then eventually she basically said, this is deep in the conversation. They all saw what you were like as a kid and a grown up. You asked me to look at myself. Maybe you could look at yourself. Very angry child, so difficult, but I still love you.
yeah.
And often she will say things like, it's your dad who caused all this because he left. And how she says this often, where she says, it's your, like, how does it make me, how do you think it made me feel when you would go to him and be excited to see him even though he broke my heart? Like, how dare you? Like, she really blames me a lot for
Yeah.
wanting to be with my dad or getting excited to see him, or like feeling like I had a good relationship with him, because she was like, how could you do that to me? So yeah, that's I think that, like, when she says those things, I see it. I see, like, oh, that's where that self-hatred comes from. Like, I went through some of the worst things of my entire life with her, and she says it's because of me. It's
Mm-hmm.
because I'm angry or difficult or something.
Mm-hmm.
So the worst things that happened to me are my fault because
Mm-hmm.
I am who I am.
Yeah. So you can see that now rationally, that's a Swiss cheese argument. But
Kind
emotion,
of. I mean, like,
yeah.
emotionally, as I'm saying it out loud, like, and reading those texts, there's a part of me that's so angry that she would say that. And then there's another part of me that's like, maybe it's true, like,
What's happening
maybe
for you?
I just feel it's true. Like, or I just, my mind goes back and forth of, like, the therapist adult side knows it's not true. And then there's a kid side that's like, maybe I did, maybe I did deserve it. Sorry.
Can't be me.
Yeah.
It's hard because when reason isn't enough, it's like I want to take your pain away, but you already know that that's not fair to put on a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that until I started having a son myself. I mean, it's weird. I think a lot of people experience this where once they have a kid of their own, they start to realize what they've been through.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really disorienting experience to have a kid, and you see this little child, and you're like, oh my God, how could someone do something to that little thing? Like, the thing that you wanted to protect so badly.
Yeah.
And I see sometimes with my son where he, like, has a big personality, right? Like, he has, like, big feelings, and he's, like, loud and whatever, and I get really scared of like people's reaction to that, because I'm like, oh my God, what if like they think he's a bad boy? What if they see this and they think he's bad too, and he'll go through life the way I feel? So I see it now more as a mom.
Yeah, I mean, can you even imagine hitting him and terrorizing him and believing that it
No.
because it's his fault that he deserved that?
No, I might go the opposite way where I'm even like sometimes too gentle and too like I kind of like too giving in. I mean, this is the thing that happens when people don't want to, like, I see it intellectually and emotionally, like when people don't want to own the parts of them they don't want to, that they don't like
Mm.
the quote broken or bad parts. Like my mom acts in ways that is really hurtful to a lot of people. I mean, to the point where my whole family and like people around me and people I grew up with all know what she's like.
Yeah.
And every time I say this to her, like I present the evidence to her. I'm like, don't you remember when you did this? Don't you remember when this? And she'll act like it didn't happen, or if she does admit it, it's because it was someone else's fault. Like to this day, when we fight or when she's, harsh to me or mean to me or something like that, she'll say something about, well, I was hurt because of the divorce, or she'll blame it on my dad. I'm like, you have long been divorced from my dad, and also he's dead.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to own that part, so
Well,
she gives it to me,
yeah.
I
I
think.
mean, think about how hard it is for you to go to this place where you feel bad and you think about the times you've been angry or aggressive or what have you. The place she would have to go
Yeah.
is hell.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not me trying to have over compassion for her, but it makes sense. It makes more sense that she would refuse to go to that place and instead hand you a portion of it to hold
Yeah.
and
And
find
it's
it
just so
later.
lonely because, like, I have to hold it all.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you're right. Like, she can't tolerate it. She just can't.
yeah.
I, weirdly enough, I don't know if this is a subconscious calling, but lately I've been watching You, the Netflix show.
Mm.
By the way, everyone skip this next few seconds because I might give spoilers. I'll try not to, but after today, I was like, I'm just gonna watch TV. I need to just. I'm kind of like, I oh God, the worst part of the day was that I had this argument with her, and then I was please leave us alone. Like, I was begging her, please, like, leave me alone, please, like, give me some space. I'm gonna stop texting. And then we did, and then I heard her calling him through the nanny's phone, and I literally went into a fight or flight mode. I literally like ran out to the living room, and I was like, get off, and I started sobbing and I started shaking, and I couldn't stop. Like, I just like felt like I was an animal. I just couldn't. So to kind of numb out, I watched You, and which is like a fun murder murder show. But there's a season, not the latest season, I haven't seen that yet, so no spoilers on that, but there's a season where eventually this guy has been doing horrible things like killing people, and he keeps having this story of himself as the victim of trauma and like a good guy who wants to protect the weak, to protect women. And you could see his, like, the voiceover is his inner dialogue, and Joe, the character, is always saying like, I would never hurt anyone. Whenever he would do something, he'd kill someone or hurt them, he'd be like, this is not me, this is not who I am, I didn't do this, I'm not that person. And he will have like some justification for why he did it, until he seems to have a breaking point where he dissociates and really like dissociative identity disorder, where he splits the part of him that kills people and hurts people, and he is not conscious of it anymore. So it functions as another person.
Mm.
So it's like there's people can go through such extremes when they cannot tolerate a part of themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm better. I don't tolerate it a lot. Like I hide from the fact that I feel like this about myself a lot.
Hmm. Well, I don't know that that's a bad thing. I mean, getting in contact with it sometimes is probably important so that you can process it, and you do have to function. So I'd say that's better than dissociating a part of you that murders people.
Yeah. Yeah, there are levels. There's like literally, the dissociating that part of you that you don't want to own, you don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
There's the projecting, which is part of dissociation, where you see it in other people. Like that's actually a lot of what transference focus therapy is all about. Is that the theory is personality disorders are made because you can't integrate the different parts of you. You deny one
Mm-hmm.
or two or whatever, and then you throw it onto other people. I'm the victim. You're the aggressor, and that other person might actually feel like they're being hurt, right? So like you have it, you have the bad part of me I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's just like suppression and denial, or what I do, which is like suppressing and overcompensating, right? Like, oh no, I'm trying to do good things. I, I, I guess I'm not sure, but it doesn't feel real. Like it feels like the bad stuff is actually more truthful.
Yeah.
So there's different ways that you could deny and like wrestle with those disowned parts of you.
So as a kid, you were terrorized by your mother and made to believe that it's because you were, quote, bad and difficult and angry. It was that vague? Just these vague words about you being...
I think back then it was, I mean, with her, when she says it, it might be different things. It was, oh, now it's like, now I'm remembering. It's the same thing that she had an issue with her mom and my dad. We don't care. We're cold. We just work a lot. We don't give her what she wants. We don't give the attention and love that she wants. That I'm fat. Like she used to actually say, if you keep eating like this, no one's gonna love you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then me being defiant against her was always the thing that she would point to as like, you're bad.
Well, no wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you held up a mirror to her, she attacked. It sounds like.
Yeah.
And then you get rewarded for some of those same traits by your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like I'm like my dad so that she hates me for it, and I'm like my dad and my dad liked me for it. So, I mean, now that I'm an adult, I don't really think I'm exactly like him. I'm actually very different. I'm actually have a lot of qualities like her, but yeah, it's just this, oh, like I feel it, like it's just like this, it's like I'm poisoned, and I'm like doing what I can to hide the fact that I'm poisoned, or trying to let it not infect everything around me.
What would happen if you broke open the poison vial? Like, what if I said, "Hey, give me the poison. Be poisonous right now." What do you think would come out?
I think I would just be myself and people would just leave me. I don't think I would do anything different. Like it's not like I have a part of me that it doesn't look like I would do anything different. Maybe sometimes when I'm like angry, like how like I know we've talked about this a lot where I'll suppress my anger and people please and then burst.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the burst moment, and then people are like, "Whoa," like that's out of nowhere, Kibby. You're so angry, and like I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, here I am," So and then there's this sad feeling of like, I know my mom feels sometimes where it's like, well, why can't people see that part of me and still love me? Like, oh, it's a matter of time before that comes out, and then people will hate it and see it as bad.
I guess what's interesting to me is that part of you is a behavior that seems like it comes out because you suddenly get frightened and
Hmm.
it activates this core belief stuff.
Hmm.
So it almost seems like a byproduct of believing that there's something wrong with you rather than it being evidence or rather than it being the bad part of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I can't tell if that's because I'm trying to control it or make it happen. I describe it, but I see it clinically a lot, right? Where people who are afraid of rejection tend to do things to get them rejected. Like they either hide or from other people, or they actually like literally push people away and they go, well, there it is. I told you people are going to leave me. So like there's something about how we try to confirm these parts of us or those beliefs that were broken.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't know if there's anything like underneath like I don't think that there's a part that's like, oh, if I really let it out, I'll just be evil and I would like yell at people and like I think it's just like I exist.
Yeah.
And then if people actually see like me, then they will leave or they'll yeah.
How come people aren't leaving right now? What are we not seeing? Are you not being yourself?
I'm not sure. I think it's a matter of time. Like, I think like I've had to deal with this a lot with my relationship with Alex, my husband, who I think we're starting to realize like how much like attachment insecurity I have. Like, fear. Like whenever whenever Alex is depressed or struggling or just unhappy, I have this panic and I'm this fear of like, oh no, like I gotta fix it. I gotta make it better. Otherwise he's gonna leave.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work I'm having to do around just allowing him to have feelings and not let it just trigger my attachment insecurity, my like belief that I'm broken and he's just gonna leave.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was activated a lot during one of our first fights where I think I've talked about this before, so I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive, but he misread a tone of a text that I had. I said I was, we were talking about when we're going to get engaged or something like that, and I misunderstood, and I thought it was earlier than we are, and I said, well, and I was kind of ruminating. I was like, well, maybe it's a good thing that we're waiting and not getting married right away or engaged right away. And he heard it as me being like, well, fine, maybe it's good that we're not getting engaged. But I really wasn't trying to be mean in that moment. And then he got really mad at me and said, I don't know if this is going to work out. You're too mean. You're too mean. I don't think I could do this. I don't know. And he was really cold. And I sobbed for hours after that because it was like my worst nightmare came true.
I mean, all of these psychological concepts are like marching through my brain, with a sense of hopelessness. Like, how one instance of being misinterpreted led to you categorizing your entire self as mean instead of seeing it as like, oh, occasionally I'm mean. Like occasionally a lot of people are mean. But it just becomes the totality of who you are. And it makes sense when, you grew up the way you did, with someone saying you're mean, therefore you deserve punishment.
Well, I mean, like Alex and I have been friends for, at that point, 18 years. And so us getting together, I was like, oh, wow. Something that makes me feel really safe around him was that he's known me and all, so many different forms of me, that he accepts me and loves me, even though he
Yeah.
knows all the parts of me. And then when he said that, I was crushed. I was like, I was right. I'm bad. And
I mean,
when people really find it out, they'll leave.
yeah, that was a pretty crushing thing to say, in fairness. I would have been.
As soon as we got on the phone and I like read out my text to him with the tone that I meant, he was like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry." So this was all cleared up. Like, lesson learned. Talk about emotional stuff not on text. Actually get the tone of voice.
But yeah, it's this protective action stuff that so often is the culprit, and there's this belief in this mysterious part of the self that is poisoned and defective and broken, and it can be so frustrating for the loved one to be like, "What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what this part is. I wish I could give this part a hug and tell it it's okay because it's just not how we see you." Like, I've seen this firefighter part of you before that gets contemptuous and angry, and that's hurt my feelings, and I've told you that. But like, it doesn't seem like that's the true you. Doesn't, you know what I mean?
How
Just
so?
like, well, I mean, just like the times when I dissolve into panic and insecurity and weakness because Zach asks me to check the internal consistency of my measures. That doesn't mean that, which happened an hour ago. Um,
We're all triggered today. That's like the worst thing I could think of to ask you. Like, why don't you do a bunch of stats that don't make any sense right now under high pressure, high stakes?
yeah, you have 5 days to determine the rest of your life. Um, that doesn't mean that I am inherently a weak, panicking, insecure mess of an ineffectual person. Um, there's this concept that I know you know called internal family systems. There are all these different parts and they all have different roles. They're trying to kind of keep the system that is the person surviving. And that part of you that gets really angry, it sounds to me like what IFS would call the firefighter, which is when when all else does, like when nothing else seems to be working, the firefighter comes in and does whatever it can to protect you from feeling a certain way. And it sounds like the way that you're feeling that's trying to protect you from is this sense of being unlovable and abandonable. I mean, what do you think that's trying to protect you from?
I I remember that one time I had a therapist in like a trauma therapist in when I was going through grad school in North Carolina, and I was talking about this about like how I'm more of an externalizer and I'm more angry and I feel really ashamed about that. And she said, "Well, thank goodness that you are." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?"
Mm-hmm.
Because usually all my like work has been about like how to manage the anger and stuff it down. But she was like, "Oh, good." I was like, "That's a weird response." And she said, "Well, I mean, the stuff that you went through, people who are angry as a response to that trauma tend to move forward and they tend to, you know, get out of there, get out of that situation, work, like
Yeah.
fight for things." And she was like, if you went the other way and weren't angry, that anger would turn inward and you would have other kind of problems like depression, self-hatred, and sometimes like self-harm, you
Mm-hmm.
know. She was like, it's sometimes also really hard when people respond to trauma by turning it inward and not outward. And so it was the first time someone had said that, and I couldn't believe it. Like, it was nice to hear. At first, I didn't believe it, but over time, I can see what she means by that. So I can see the protective nature of it.
Yeah. I mean, it almost seems like you do typically turn it inward, but then there comes a point where you can no longer hold that. It can no longer be pointed inwardly, and it gets pointed outwardly.
Yeah, there's always this like yearning that people would also recognize that I'm not the only bad one. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
that like even in arguments, I mean, we've talked about this where I'm like, I'm not the only, like I'm called the angry one, but like other other people have done things to hurt me, or like I
Hmm.
don't think I'm the only one at fault. And it's still all like that healing fantasy that my mom would eventually be like, okay, yeah, you might be a difficult child or angry or whatever, but I couldn't handle it and I did things that really hurt you, and I'm really sorry. I'm trying to work on it, but I can't. Something that would own that
Yeah.
part of her. But it just like the amount of denial that she has around it is stunning. Like the things that she does to hurt people. I mean, I didn't even bring this up, but this is trigger warning for the story. But there's one of my core memories was during a fight when I have with my mom, and they would get really violent, and I woke up in on the terrace with covered in blood, and I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know what happened, and I like my face hurt, but I didn't understand. Like I was really disoriented. At first I remember looking at my hand and being like, "Whose is this?" And then I walked inside, and I was really spaced out. I walked inside. I went and saw my mom in the kitchen, and she was sitting at her table, and she was facing away, and she was sitting upright, really, really like this.
Hmm.
And I remember being like, "Mommy, I don't know what happened." And she turned and looked at me. She was like, "Well, you always have nosebleeds." And did I ever told you the story?
No.
Oh, yeah. And I like went and cleaned myself up. And I remember being in a fog. And to this day, I don't know what happened. My mom brought it up today without me bringing it up. She was like, "Well, you would, your dad did this, and you came in one day into the kitchen, and you always have nosebleeds."
What?
And like the fact that she couldn't, and that's what makes me feel crazy, like the amount of denial, what denial can do, that she couldn't even tell me what happened.
Yeah.
Then it's not real. Like I have the effects of the pain and the
Hmm.
memory and the horror and the fear, and then but then like no one can tell me what happened, so I just have to kind of like hold it, right? I mean, this is not an example of me being broken, but it's an example of how if someone who hurts you doesn't own up to it, you like get all of the blowback of it, and you have to hold it, and it doesn't even feel real. Sometimes you're just like, what happened? Did I do that? Like, did I make it up? Sometimes I like was like, what happened? Maybe I made it up. Maybe I just fell. Like, but that's a weird thing to. I don't know. It just like even if I think about it, it doesn't make any sense.
But you know what happened.
I don't I I think I remember parts like we. It was like how we normally do it, and I remember she'd always use the thrash, right? And I always remember like a flurry of just like body that probably was like hitting back or something, and then I woke up on the floor. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how I got there. I don't know when we
Right.
went out there. I don't know.
But you know it was a result of violence. Of violence.
Maybe I fell.
Why wouldn't she have told you that?
I don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's just. I guess I only bring that up because it still seems like there's an attempt to find the most benign cause. Um, instead of having, I don't know. I mean, instead of having to hold that probably she beat you up and maybe you fell as a result of that or slammed against something as a result of that, but that is not your fault.
I was like 9. I think that's the craziest thing, that I get really weird when I see kids when they're 6 or 7. I just get kind of, because whenever you picture the bad things that happened to you as a
Yeah.
kid, you picture yourself as like an adult, like or older. You just like, oh, like I remember that, and here's how I processed that. But then when I see a 6-year old or 7-year old when all this stuff happened, I'm like, I mean, they're children. They're literally children. I just can't believe how young they are and how fragile they are. It's really freaky.
Yeah. It's so messed up. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just, she does something horrible to you, veils the truth, won't own up to the truth, gives you a gas-lighted explanation that it had something to do with you and your pesky nosebleeds,
Hmm.
which don't cause pain or dissociation. And then you just have to go on the next day knowing that she's who you come home to.
Yeah, it really does feel like there's this demon that lives, like the generational trauma demon, that the buck that's passed around that no one wants to hold. This demon hit me, like maybe bleed or something, and then none of us can remember. Like none of us can see the demon.
Well, maybe we try to see. If we think about just the self hatred piece, the part of you that blames yourself, the part of you that sees yourself as damaged and broken, what what does that look like? I mean, can you give it an image? Like, is that the demon or is that something else?
I can only just picture myself as a kid screaming. And the weird part is it kind of looks like my mom screaming. Because we looked a little alike. At some point in my life, when I was younger, I looked a lot like her or like acted like her. And like this, like I have like my bangs and like straight black hair and just stomping around screaming.
So there's this
Um,
fused mom kibby hybrid child
yeah.
who's stomping around screaming. And that's the self hatred part.
No, that's the part that causes all the problems that I hate. That people hate. People would
That's
hate if they saw it, you know?
that's the part of you that gets really angry and aggressive. Or is
Yeah.
this okay? This is the part that
Yeah.
actually does those things, or is this the part that lives inside you and we don't actually know what it does or what's so bad about it?
I don't know. I never thought about it like a separated thing. Cause no, I think it's like this is one and the same, like the aggressive part, because this aggressive part is not just the type that gets angry when I feel hurt or like I feel like someone hates me, right? It's not just a reaction. It's also like the part of me that works hard or that is ambitious or that likes to play sports. That part like that's more like I don't say masculine because that's like but the one that goes into war that like drives me to do stuff. The one that the part of me that pushed my friend that day on in the playground. Like
Okay, so this is the part of you that some other part of you hates, or this is the part of you that.
this is the part of me that has people like maybe that my mom hated that she would react badly to that other people didn't like my friend goes a kibby and I put like the part that people are shocked and horrified when they see it.
What's your immediate kind of reaction to it? If you see it, that little kid, mom kibby hybrid, stomping around.
I mean, the thing that just popped in my mind just now is seeing when Jackson, my son, also is like that. When he's just like, I want that. Like, and I'm like, oh my God, he has it. He's infected too. He has that side, and it's just like I have such a reaction to it. And Alex is like, it's fine. He's just like, I don't know. He just wants a chocolate. I don't know. Like, it's not a big deal. But I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't have it. Don't have it.
Okay, so it's this
Um,
feared. It's this.
It's the thing that's gonna get everyone hate him. They
Okay.
hate him. They call him a bad child. He's gonna get in trouble. He's gonna
Yeah.
get in trouble for it. It's weird. I I talked to one of my childhood friends about this, and I was like, "Do you remember what I was like back then? Do you remember? Was I bad? Was I like difficult?" And she was like, "No." She was like, and actually, this is the friend I pushed in the playground, like my friend Marin. Um, she was like, "No, you weren't bad. It's just like, you know, your mom couldn't handle you." She was like, "You were always too much, too masculine, too defiant, too obsessed with work." And she didn't like that. And whenever I would not do something that she wanted, she wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
And she was like, she was like, I just remember you always tried to be good, like always tried to do the right thing and like work hard, but like it never was enough. And that
Mm.
was like so mind blowing for me to hear her say that, partially because she was the friend that was like, oh my God, but also is because like that is so different from now, how, like, from how I saw myself.
Do you have a sense, like looking at that little infected thing, like what it wants? Like if you imagine talking to it for a minute?
Hmm. I want my mom to acknowledge and say that and she say, yeah, just say like, I did that. I did those things and I'm sorry. You don't even have to say sorry, but just like, yeah, it was me. The problem was me. I did things.
Yep.
Um,
So she wants to be unburdened and
hmm.
stripped of the responsibility of being bad and infected.
Yeah. I want, yeah, just like some like accountability, but at least just like, yeah, it isn't just you. Like you aren't just crazy.
Mm.
Um, I want to.
What does
It's
it
weird.
want? Not you
Huh?
want. What does the part want? Not you.
To be as to be herself and not be hated.
Okay. So then there's another
Which,
part of you that's doing the hating.
yeah.
Can you get in contact with that part?
Hmm.
Does it look like anything?
I think it's just me, the one that I identify with. I guess it's like the adult, like reasonable part that's like,
The adult reasonable part hates the little stomping
yeah,
child in you.
yeah,
But you told me that your reasonable side sees it differently. But that there's this emotional self-hatred that comes in.
huh, interesting. I don't know.
Well, when you feel the self-hatred, do you feel it anywhere physically?
I just feel now more the relief that I'm admitting to it, so I can't really find the self-hatred kind of winds around everything. Like it winds around like this like a stupid thing. Like if I post a reel on the Instagram and it doesn't do well, I'm like, ah, it's because everyone like that part of me came out through the reel. Like I'm trying to like
Yeah.
give some space to talk through the bitterness and the anger, and then people see it and they don't like it, right? Like so it's just,
It's like a ribbon or a tentacle or something that's
yeah,
around
like
the room.
it's a disease and people like feel the disease and so they don't like it. Yeah, so I think it's part of like the world hates it. Like I'm convinced that the world would hate it, and then I'm trying to stuff it down or trying to
Okay,
prevent people from hating it.
so the part of you that is hating on that little marching child, little stomping child, is it's doing a certain job, which is protecting it from being seen by the world.
Yeah, there's now like this like image that popped in my mind that is like the two sides of me that's like my mom and my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and they hate each other. and my dad is like the masculine, obsessive compulsive, hardworking, and the mom is like the erratic, explosive, like angry, childish side, and those two sides hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What part do they play in the story?
I think those are the two parts of me that are hate like battling
Okay.
inside. I think. Not sure. I don't know if I'm making sense. This is all just like
No, I mean it's that you've described a story in which there's this mother who is very, very punishing of you anytime you take on the father role, but then the father role is the only place where you can find safety.
yeah.
So you're in a bind constantly.
She's when she would get really drunk and angry, she would scream at me like, "You're just like your father. You're an asshole, just like your father." She would say that a lot. Um, and I
Yeah.
remember there was a part of me that felt like good, like kind of felt this vindictive, like not vindictive, but just like good. I'm glad I'm like my dad. Like a relief, but like bitter, like condescending relief. Like I prefer to be that side than the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. It strikes me that there's this part of you, like if we think about IFS, so you've got this battle of good and evil inside of you, but that gets really mucked up because either side that you land on is considered evil by the other. And then you've got this image of this stomping child that is aggressive, and then you've got this coil wrapped around everything that you're visualizing, that its job is to keep the stomping child at bay, keep it so that nobody can ever see that. And it
Hmm.
seems to operate by by keeping this self-hatred alive so that this part is never seen.
Hmm.
Does that feel accurate?
Hmm. Yeah, the self-hatred is a little bit more of like trying to suppress it.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to
So,
suppress it and try to get other people to own it too. So it's not just me.
yeah. Because what would happen if it didn't suppress it?
Then it would be all of me. It'd be I am that thing
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's going to hate me.
And then you'd
I
be
think I think the fear is that people are going to see me like they see my mother.
okay.
Like I think that's what I'm so afraid of is just like I don't want to be like my mother.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like her.
Yeah, so that ribbon, that coil is playing a super important part by protecting you from being seen the way that your terrorist is seen.
Yeah.
And then you'd be left and alone and unlovable.
Yeah.
So that,
Oof.
that self-hatred's doing a really important thing.
Yeah.
What do you feel when you think of it that way?
Um I wish I could make sense of everything. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I don't understand when I feel so much of this battle inside and then other people say like, "Oh, I wish you can see yourself like we see you."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't understand what that means. Like, why is this such a disconnect? Why is it that everyone else sees me as good and I don't feel that way? And I feel like I'm like living a lie. Um, I wish it
Well,
made more sense.
I guess the way I'm thinking of it is if you believe that this little stomping child, if it took over, would resemble your mom and make people flee, then it's pretty important not to let that part out and to keep it suppressed. And the only way that you've got right now to do that is to hate it and do everything you can to tell it it can never see the light of day. And if you tell something it can never see the light of day, that kind of resembles hatred.
Hmm. Yeah. So what do I do?
Well, I mean, I guess I wonder if when you think of this rib of the self-hatred part as trying to protect you and trying to keep you loved and supported and not alone, if you have any compassion for that.
Yeah, but I also want compassion for the angry part, the
Mm-hmm.
stompy part, I
You do?
guess. Well, I always don't want to have it. Like, I want to give it back
Mm-hmm.
to her, but she won't take it. So it's me.
Maybe it's not hers. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's just a set of beliefs you have about what this angry, stompy thing can do.
Hmm.
Because it's never let out. I mean, if you never let. If I were to. I'm watching Lost right now, and you know how they always have to push the button to make sure the world doesn't explode?
Yeah. Hmm.
If I were to take you down there and said, hey, the world's going to explode unless you push this button, you're going to believe that unless you. That this button is the only thing that prevents the world exploding, and that something about not pushing that button, some monster is going to come out and destroy everything. But we don't actually know because we keep pushing the button. What if when we stop pushing the button, the monster comes out and nothing happens? The world
Hmm.
doesn't explode. All you know is that you're pushing this button over and over and over again
Hmm.
because we've never seen the little kid come out.
Yeah. So I stop pushing the button?
Maybe. And see if there's anything that's actually really scary about that part of you.
I don't even know what that would look like.
I imagine it's because it's a baseless fear. I mean, it's a fear that was developed for a good reason because you were told. Like it's like John and Jack were told that the world would explode if they didn't push the
Mm.
button. But if they don't push the button, there's nothing actually scary on the other end.
Not true.
Okay.
Oh, well, I won't give it away if you haven't gotten to this point of loss where they
Yeah, I
don't
forget.
push the button and terrible things happen. Yeah.
Damn, I thought I remembered it as nothing terrible happened, but I guess that's it. Tell
uh,
me.
you know what? The writers of Lost really, I mean,
They
good
did
show,
good.
but they kind of winged it for a lot of it. So, yeah, I guess I wouldn't know what else would happen. What it would look like when I stop pushing the button. I probably, I mean, the only thing that the clearest thing in my mind is like, I wouldn't spend so much time obsessing over, like, trying to find out why other people have more success than I do,
Yeah.
and like, be like, oh, they have more of this quality, and it's because of me,
Yeah.
trying to compare myself all the time.
Hmm.
I think, right?
Because that's a protector part. What IFS would say is this coil part of you is trying to is it's pushing the button constantly, right? It's trying to
Hmm.
keep this what we call an exiled. These are intolerable feelings or the big fear, right? The terrible thing that'll come out. Well, just thanking your protector parts for trying so hard
Yeah.
and letting them drop the rope a little bit and giving them the assurance that you can take over now. That you can regulate your emotions. You can make people love you. You are loved. That you can recognize you can do that kind of work that's much more adult and mature instead of the self-hatred that is the protector part you have because that's what you were taught.
What if I become like my mother? That's the
Like,
fear.
well, how would that happen? Just walk me through that logically. How would you go from being somebody who is extremely aware of how her behavior affects others and is takes a lot of ownership over that and has her own little kid who she loves and can't imagine terrorizing? How would you go from that to somebody who is abusive and mean and can't take responsibility and lives in denial just because you stop hating yourself?
Well, I'm worried about that the protective part is what separates me from her.
Uh-huh.
That is what differentiates. And for example, for her to be like, I mean, one thing is like selfish or like, thinking about herself and demanding things that she wants from other people and getting mad when they don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Like you say that I'm so nervous about like even like telling you how I am, and talking about my emotions or what I need. Like then I go the opposite way where I'm walking in and I'm like I become selfish, right? Like become like self-involved and narcissistic.
Okay. Well, even though that's never how narcissism has ever developed, maybe that would happen with you. But
It's like the
maybe,
super ego, and then let the id out. You know what I mean? That's what I'm afraid of. You just
yeah,
become a child and like hangs
yeah,
out and
yeah.
thrashes around emotionally and physically.
Right, right. Well, what I imagine would happen is if you let your it out a little bit and you started asking for things that you wanted, you'd probably get a lot of positive feedback. And maybe you'd get a little bit of negative feedback too. And then you could respond to that.
Oh, I just had like a like feeling of nausea when you said that.
The negative
That's
feedback
crazy. I
part?
mean, like, whew, when we get into these like opening up raw episodes, I feel like I'm like reacting all sorts of ways. Like,
Because it's a scary risk. It's asking you to jump off of a really huge platform and do things that might get you rejected. But this is the thing, right? Like, you can either have the self hatred that comes in and rejects you every day, or you can test some things out, take some risks, maybe get a little bit rejected, and then respond to it in yourself, with your actual self, right? That says, okay, maybe I don't go that far. Maybe that's a boundary. I found it. And you try another one. I have a really hard time believing that you are going to metamorphose into a totally different person with a severe personality disorder just because you decide.
I mean, you know how like my obsession is always fearing that I actually have a personality disorder.
Yeah.
One time, Caitlin, our friend, was like, "Your personality disorder is that you think you have a personality disorder."
Well, because what is a personality disorder? Is it the stomping child or is it the protective actions? The
Mm,
protective parts that rule, that come
yeah.
in and won't allow the inner self to breathe at all. They say, you're bad, you're bad. I got to do everything I can. I've got to deny reality. I've got to be mean to people. I've got to tell them it's their fault. I've got to victimize myself. I've got to do absolutely anything I can to never let myself out. Because the last time myself was out, I was a little kid and I was tortured by the people who were supposed to care for me. And that can't ever happen again.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
And it's also over.
Is it?
Well, if you block your mother, it is.
Ugh. That makes sense. No, I'm. It's making. A minute ago, I was kind of like, "What would I do?" Like. But now
Yeah.
it's all. It kind of the parentified version of me
Mm-hmm.
trying to squash down the real or like more unregulated. Not, I don't wanna say regulated. Unlike controlled part of me.
Yeah.
Emotional.
I mean, if this were a therapy session, I'd be trying to like lead you here instead of like telling things, but I have a feeling that that little part of you that really wants to be acknowledged by your mother could use some acknowledgement from you and some forgiveness and love and compassion and warmth from you.
Maybe.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Probably would have worked better if I'd led you there myself, but
Maybe one day.
all right,
Maybe.
well, for now, we'll keep on hating it.
It's not that would keep hating it. It just feels like how it feels like a band-aid unless she actually does it, or at least like someone else recognizes it. I think maybe that's why in therapy, well, maybe that's why therapy exists, but that when we go through these exercises of like coming in contact with these unhealed parts, that sometimes the therapist steps in and like leads and says like, I see that and I feel compassion, and then leads the person to do it themselves. Like there does feel like something doesn't feel enough, I have to keep like patting myself. It's like, okay, you're okay, Kibby. You're good. Because
Well,
it is the fear that other people will hate it anyway. Like I
yeah,
might be like, no, 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 it's okay that I feel this way, but then like someone else is going to be like, you're too mean. I'm going to break up with you.
right. So you're probably not going to get that from your mom because in order for her to mean it, she'd have to go to a place that's much scarier than this place.
Yeah, you're right.
So how can you get it from other people? How, like, even logically, how could this happen?
I mean, this is helping. It
Okay.
doesn't click yet. It doesn't feel like, oh, I actually feel good about myself. Like, the self-hatred's gone, but like,
Yeah.
I think the more like you and the people I love like say that like the counter evidence of like actually you're good, and, like I lock that away in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and have that as like okay, but I think I'm not entirely bad,
It's good.
so it's just a little, it just sits there, but um I think seeing them and like admitting that all these parts are at play is like unpleasant but helpful.
What if you took that little kid by the hand and walked it around the block, metaphorically? Meaning, you took her into the living room and sat with your husband and said, "This is the part of me that I'm most afraid of you seeing. And I'm gonna sit here with you and with it for 5 minutes."
Okay. Oof. In a way, I feel like it is like that when I'm with my son. Like
Okay.
like because I'm able to be like compassionate. Like when he has emotions, I can do that for him. But I guess yeah, parent myself. I guess in the same way. Hmm.
Let other people see it. It's exposure. Don't push the button for 5 minutes. See what happens.
Next episode, you're gonna have a really different story. You're
I wish I had
like,
a different
maybe you
metaphor,
shouldn't keep pushing that button. Like, maybe we should get locked down here and like maybe get Mr. Echo. Just like just keep doing. Like, Desmond ran away, but we could find him, get him back.
I told you I'm naming my kid Desmond, right? And I wouldn't. I basically just handed Jason this edict that that's our child's name, and he thought it was like some deep personal meaning, but actually it was just from Lost.
That's so funny. I mean, Desmond's the greatest character, so good on you. Yeah, he nailed like the whole time, and he was like excellent. You know, great hair, great
Yes, such
accent,
great hair.
great shirt, constantly on an island with no washing machines. Just,
Yeah. Waking up every 2 hours to push a button. Still
yeah.
looking that good. It's like having an infant for 3 straight years.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
I know.
Well, thank you for the therapy session.
You're welcome. I got to practice a concepts
I
for my
was.
test, which was thrilling. Okay, well, guys, I've got a little project for all of you. Okay, Kibby, can you get your little stomping child to come out just for a few seconds? Is she
Fine.
here? Is she here?
Fine. Yeah.
She's here. Okay, she's.
Yeah, it's me.
Hey guys, if you like Kibby's little stomping child and want it to feel loved and healed, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave a little comment, and Kibby will be healed. Deal?
So sorry, everyone. So sorry.
That would legitimately help, though. That's the funny thing. Because that whole part of you that's like, I'm not
That's
doing
true. I'm not worthy.
it.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. Accurate.
Whatever moment. Okay, well, it's time to get my little tiny child out and work on my dissertation. So, wish me luck as I descend into the pits of hell.
We'll all go there together.
Yeah,
Let's all
let's
sit in
go.
hell and, get a tan.
All right, I love you, little tiny child.
Thanks. Love you too.
Bye. By accessing this podcast, I acknowledge that the hosts of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast and any and all content or services available on or through this podcast are provided for general, non-commercial informational purposes only and do not constitute the practice of medical or any other professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and should not be considered or used as a substitute for the independent professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment of a duly licensed and qualified healthcare provider. In case of a medical emergency, you should immediately call 911. The hosts do not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement.